Good morning, everyone. Welcome back into the AM show. I told you guys it was going to be a very quick commercial because we have a lot to get to today. And our next guest has a truly inspiring story. She went from a successful career in banking to following her passion for comedy and music. She's the creator and the star of the Italian Chicks comedy and variety show. She's a talented songwriter and a true believer in taking risks to follow your dreams. So without further ado, please welcome Maryann Maisano. Welcome, Maryann. How you doing?
Good morning. Thank you for having me on. It's great.
Oh, we're so excited to have you here. Anytime I can start with laughter and fun in the morning, I know I'm going to have a great day.
Absolutely. That's the way to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
And there's no copay. There's no copay.
Yeah. There you go. Exactly. And Maryann, your story really is incredible. I know I just teased a little bit of your backstory, but you went from banking to comedy and music, and that is quite the jump. So I just want to know, how did that transition happen? And was there like a defining moment where you thought, hey, I need to follow my passion right now?
Yeah. It's interesting because my family was from Italy. Mm-hmm. And I had a very strict Italian father. And since I was 12 years old, I was performing. I had a high school band and all that jazz, right? And as I got older, I started performing in rock and roll band. And he wasn't really happy seeing his youngest daughter getting in a van with a bunch of guys going away for the weekend, you know? So one day he came over to me and he said to me, Maryann, you better get a real job and the benefits. And I was, like in hindsight, I knew he was trying to help me, like he was cared about my future, but I got very angry at that. And I was like I felt like he thought I couldn't do anything. So I was like, well, I'll show you, like that kind of thing. And I walked into a local bank and, think about it. When we were little and we went to local banks, everybody we knew worked in that bank, right? Because we all went to school with everybody and they all had a job in the bank. So everybody knew me. They came to my shows when I have bands, performing and all that stuff. I got hired as a teller. So the biggest mistake they made was giving me the drive-up window because it had a microphone.
And you use that.
Yeah. So all day long when customers would pull up, I'd get this one guy, he'd say, hey, is your band going to be down there Wednesday night? I'm like, yeah, you're going to learn that blues song? And I go, can you do it for me? And I'd go, yeah. And he goes, now. And I go, now? And I'd be like, okay. And I'd start singing in the bank. So I had this lovely older lady that came in every week with all these rolled pennies, right? And she'd pull up and I'd say, hi, how are you? And then she said, will you sing for me? And I go, every time it rains, pennies from heaven, right? So yes, I broke the microphone and they transferred me. And what started happening was, when you're a working musician, there's not a lot of cash involved in your life, And so I started making a lot of money and very fast. And I moved up and I wound up becoming vice president of sales, strategic branding and behavior modification.
Wow.
So it was a very hefty gig, And as I was delivering a seminar one day to the sales team, I always started out with, how many of you knew you wanted to be a banker when you grew up? Because I knew nobody would say yes,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody would raise their hand. And I said, of course, you want to be a ballerina or a cowboy or this. And I said, I knew when I was 5 years old, I wanted to be a performer. And then I heard it in my head. And I came home that night and I thought about it and I said, what am I doing? I always wanted to get out of banking, but I couldn't figure a way out. I thought I needed an exit strategy. And I think that's the problem with people in life when they try to make changes. Like, we don't need an exit strategy. We just have to do it. And sometimes execution is the hardest thing, right?
Yeah.
So I walked into the chairman and CEO's office the next day, who personally hired me, and I resigned my 6-figure position.
Wow.
And I went back into performing. And what I did though, I don't regret my background in corporate because it added so much value to everything I do today because I can negotiate better. I get all these things,
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote down a 3-phase plan. And I said, okay, every morning I'm setting my alarm clock at 8 o'clock. The squandering time is never a favorite thing of mine. Because as you were saying before, like I was watching your commercials, it's like time is the most valuable thing because it's the one thing you can never get back.
You're so right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I wrote a 3-phase project plan. And the first thing was create an all-female comedy and variety show that supports the cultures and traditions of the Italian people. Then to write, well, the first thing was actually write my CD, and then do the Italian Chick Show, and then write my one-woman stage play. And the name I already had picked out was Agita. All right. So I wrote the CD, and my sister wound up going to a wedding. And at that wedding was Danny Aiello.
Danny Aiello, the actor.
Right.
Wow.
So my sister, who's since no longer with us, God rest her soul, she went to her car, got the CD, and she was totally, I mean, I'm an introvert and an extrovert, but she was very shy. Mm-hmm. And she walked over to his table and said, "Excuse me, you have to listen to my sister's music." And she called me from the bathroom going like, "Oh, Mary," she was all excited. I didn't have the heart to say, "Oh, honey, everybody says yes, and these big guys, they're not going to do anything, you know." So 6 months later, I'm on my couch at home, and the phone rings. And Danny has a very distinct voice. Mm-hmm. And I heard him say, "Maryann Maisano, this is Danny Aiello." And I was like, tons of expletives. And I'm like, because I had friends of mine that were impersonators and that would call me up as Robert De Niro. And I go, "Get off, you."
Yeah, this is just someone else. Yeah.
Right. And he goes, "Starts laughing." He goes, "No, it's really me." So P.S. he said to me, "I fell in love with this one song, City of Light, and I want to do it on my new album." Because he started getting into crooning, and he had like a 17-piece orchestra, and they were playing Atlantic City and stuff. So I was like, sure. I mean, who doesn't want their music off their shelf in their house?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So he wound up recording it. It was nominated for a Grammy.
Wow.
We did, but it was nominated. And then we wound up doing a duet together of it, which was one of my favorites. Yeah. Because it's a very jazzy, sexy version with a saxophone and all that. And Danny became a great friend, a great mentor, and an extra father.
Wow.
And what he did was, when I started the Italian Chick Show, he came to the show and fell in love with it. So he endorsed it.
Yeah.
Did a video endorsement, and he endorsed the show up until his passing like 3 years ago.
Well, that is huge to get an endorsement from Danny Aiello, who is, your entire show is based off of the Italian-American culture, and who better to represent that in acting and film than Danny Aiello. So, when you get that stamp of approval, it's huge, it's massive. And
it's wild, because I was just like, it started happening, and Danny was one of the, look, the business creates people in many ways, shapes, and forms, and some of them are good, bad, and ugly. Yeah. But Danny was the real deal. He had a good heart. He tried to help me in any way he could, and he would always call me down to rehearsals. He would always, have me read for projects and this and that. And when I started writing my one-woman stage play, and I was done, I called him and I said, "Dan, I have my biggest fear." Because it's only you on stage. It's not like you have an ensemble of people and I can bounce off of you and you can feed me a line. Mm-hmm. My biggest fear was, what if I forget a line? Because don't forget, you have a sound guy following your script so they can put in a horn beeping and this happening and all that. He's not going to know where to go, right? If I screw up. So he said to me, "Here's the trick." He goes, "Don't put that in your head and never say it's going to happen. Because if you do, it will."
Because then, you build fear up.
The fear, of the whole thing. Yeah. And knock on wood, it didn't happen. Okay. So,
no, and you've been doing fantastic from everything that I've been seeing online. So I think that was some good advice that he gave you.
He was just amazing. And he would we'd be walking down the street in the city after like a rehearsal, and everybody would be running over to him. "Oh, Danny, can I have it?" And he was so great. He would always say, "Yeah, sure." And then I was right next to him, and he said to the guy, "Take your pen out again." He goes, "You got to get her autographed." He said, "Because she does everything. She's a singer, a songwriter, a writer, an actor." And I was just like, oh my God,
wow.
He's so giving. You know what I mean? You don't find people like that.
I'm so sorry to hear about his passing, but I think it's a beautiful thing that he was able to touch your life in the way he did. And that's something that you're keeping alive too with the work you're doing. And I just, your story, it is so incredible because I told you this off camera, but I'm also an Italian American. I understand that big family. Growing up, they want you to be a doctor, they want you to be a lawyer, a banker. It's one of those things. And anything else going out into entertainment, it's kind of like, wait, I'm sorry, what are you doing? How's this going to work? But the fact that you had that passion and that drive saying, no, I don't want to wake up in 30 years saying, what did I do? Why didn't I do that? I think that's something that a lot of people can use as inspiration in a sense. And so I think it's beautiful to tell your story in that way. And I wanted to get into what you've been doing with the Italian Chicks comedy because, guys, it is so funny. And we actually have 2 clips to show. I just want to show part of this one clip that I found of you doing a fun roll call of all the chicks that are in your comedy show. So let's show everyone just a clip of that, and then you can break down kind of your inspiration for this clip.
Okay.
Listen, this is the whole deal. See that one on the top there? Maryann Maisano? She runs the whole crew. She runs Tri-State. She runs Florida. She runs Los Angeles. It's crazy, right? So now here's the deal. She's got all these broads over here in the Tri-State, but she got Michelle Trainer, right? She disguises herself around this other show called The Divorce Diaries. But I went to go see it. It's a really good show, and she's really...
This just cracks me up every time I see it. And I just like, what is it about the Italian American culture that you love so much?
Well, when you're born and raised in it, I I went through, half of my life I spent in therapy. Okay. When you're raised in it, it's first of all, it's very passionate, right? It's very passionate. There's extreme dramatic, right? Of everything, right? Everything is, and for me, instead of taking the things that I saw in my family that were painful, I turned that into art. And by doing that, it healed me.
Yeah, because
it's so cathartic that instead of sitting about it and how people fall into that, and how many times you meet people that are like 50 years old and they're still like going, oh, I hate my family, and it's like, well, I love them. It's just that they made it so hard sometimes to love them, But it was all the traditions that were wonderful, like every Sunday. We didn't just have Sunday dinner. It was like a smorgasbord because all the Italians came because my father brought over everybody. When he came here, he sent over for every one of his family. And every year they'd move into the basement. My mother would cook for them. My father would find them a job. And then they would move out a year later. Another crew would come in. It was like living in a documentary, you know?
Yeah.
So that went on. And then there were things that you saw, like they would bring over a projector instead of photos. And they would put this in this little carriage. And you'd be like this. We didn't have Discovery Channel. And we'd be like, wow. Like,
look
that's
at
where
that.
we came from. Like looking at the Trevi Fountain or the David. So then you got a little more culture from, and then the music was so eclectic.
Yeah.
And I'm what you call a bump in the night baby because my sisters and brothers were way older than me. So there's like a 10-year difference. So for me, it was like I got very into the culture as they really didn't. They just went on about their life. And I was just so enthralled with it all,
Yeah. Well, you were exposed to it too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought it would be very cool to create a comedy show that continued to support the culture. Of course, you're going to make it funny. The funny things that we did or that we said, or how people talk about malocchia and what you do. My mother always used to say, okay, go. You want to go break your neck? Go break your neck. Like, she didn't want you to go out. You go out. Yeah, break your neck. And then you're always afraid that, like, when you did go out, that you were going to break your neck. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
So it was like all these things, and I realized that they were just so funny in many ways,
Yeah.
So I could add them in and add in, then bring the music to it and add in more of a traditional feel by doing Al Di La, singing Al Di La.
Yeah.
And the lead up to Al Di La is all about Sunday dinner because we don't have that anymore, right? No, right?
Yeah.
We have brunch.
Yeah.
And I really believe Sunday dinner was. Sunday dinner made us who and what we are, our morals, our values, because we heard so many things, we listened to so many stories, And that's how you grow up and you learn.
Yeah.
And today we don't have that.
Yeah, I think you're so right. And the importance on that Sunday dinner, unless you kind of grew up with that, you don't really understand it. But there's so many different cultures that have that. I grew up with that, where if there was only 15 people on Sunday, I'd be like, where is everyone? Whereas other people would be like, 15 people on a Sunday, I'd be like, where's everyone else? Nobody's here right now. But it is important. Those are some of my favorite memories of growing up in childhood, is being at my grandma's house, going over there for dinner, everyone watching football, playing soccer in the backyard, all that type of stuff. So I think that's why your show is so important, is because it's relatable to a lot of folks who grew up in that world, and it keeps those memories alive. And that's what I found by watching some of your songs and your performances, and the people that you chose to also pair with throughout your shows as well. And speaking of pairing with, we do have one more clip that I want to show. This is one of you actually performing, so let's hear a little bit of your pipes. Let's check it out.
Okay.
She was, but it's Christmas Day. Baby, please come home. Baby, please come home. Baby, please come home. Baby, please come.
Bravo! Look at you go there. I mean, it's so great. You're so talented in so many different ways. And I feel like you and I could have a 2-hour conversation, but I know time is running out right now. But I just want to know, what's up next for you? What do you have coming up in 2025? What are your plans? What can we look out for?
Well, what you could look out for is, right now I'm in the middle of writing a musical comedy.
Oh.
And we're going to bring it to off Broadway first. And the title of it is called A Lesbian, a Divorcee, and a Married Woman Walk into a Bar. The rest is musical comedy.
That is quite the title there. That's quite, and it already leads to just, laughter already. So I think that's going to be a good show. So when is that going to air?
Well, we're hoping to get it out for like early fall in 2025.
Okay. There you go. Well, that's some exciting stuff. Well, Maryann, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us this morning, taking your time out of your busy schedule. And guys, right below, we have all the information of where you guys can find Maryann online, on Instagram, on her website. And I promise you, go check out her YouTube page, because the clips that are on there are great. And I would love to see you in person as well, because like I said, I connect to a lot of those jokes and a lot of those little anecdotes that you say. It's really cool. And talking with the hands, talking loud. Everyone thinks I'm screaming. I'm not. I'm just talking.
And we do this a lot.
All this.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay, God bless you.
God bless you too. Thank you so much, Maryann. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Wow, guys, I could talk to Maryann forever. So incredible. All right, y'all, we are going to take a quick commercial break, and we have more of the show on this Wednesday when we return.